Hi, good evening, everybody out there, whoever's listening or whoever's watching the show. And I know I have a lot of people on Facebook, and I appreciate that very much. It seems like things are getting a little bit more settled, I guess, in the political world, but the Russian world is a little getting a little scary, and I wish that we can stop all that. And I don't think anybody wants to risk a third world war, and I think nobody will do that. Putin even said he wouldn't do that some time back, so I'm going to take him for his word for it. He's just kind of stomping and raging a little bit now, but that's a big world picture. Uh, you're listening to Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality Show, and I come to you about twice a week, and I go on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, LinkedIn, and also iHeartRadio. And also, I'm on uh, Real Paranormal Activity Network, and I'm on now Oracle Talk Radio Network. I'll be a regular on their show once a week, but I'll be playing those shows on Facebook and all the other platforms too. Uh, we have an interesting subject tonight on strange reality, and it falls in line with the strange reality. But Nassau, to me, I'm not sure if I can trust them. I don't know how many people out there do, but we have a guy tonight that has written several books, George J. Haas. He's the founder and premier investigator of the Mars Research Group, known as the Cydonia Institute, and is a member of the Society of Planetary SETI Research, SPSR. His research encompasses over 30 years of study and analysis of NASA and ESA photographs of Mars. So he's going to clue us in on what's going on with NASA or what's not going on with NASA. His early schooling was in his visual arts. He was an art instructor, writer, curator, and a former director of the Sculptors Association of New Jersey. During the 1980s, he exhibited extensively throughout the New Jersey and New York area and was represented by a Grace Harkin Gallery in New York's East Village and had a one-man show in 1989 at the O.K. Harris Gallery of Art in Soho. And over the last 3 decades, Haas has studied the art and iconography of North and South America cultures such as the Olmec, Maya, and Aztec. That's interesting. I love that study. He has been a member of both the pre-Columbian societies at the University of Pennsylvania and in Washington, D.C. He has co-authored two books, the Cydonia Codex 2005 and the Martian Codex 2009, and six science papers related to anomalous formations on Mars, which were published in peer reviewed science journals. Haas has been guest speaker on numerous conferences and appeared on the Gaia Network's Beyond Belief and the History Channel's Ancient Aliens. The Proof is Out There and The Unexplained with William Shatner. And his third book, The Great Architects of Mars, Haas examines a wide variety of anomalous structures and geoglyphic formations on the Martian surface that display a high degree of geometric and symbolic design. And it all sounds very interesting, and I've always been curious. Mr. George Hawes, thank you for being on the show. And is there anything else you can tell us that's going on with you right now? And has there been any changes in your situation? What I just read off on your statement.
No, not really. Where are we? Here we are.
Yeah, we had a little bit of technicalities before we started. Got a little nervous.
Oh yeah, it's all technical here.
Yeah,
Okay, there we are. Can you see me now?
yeah, I see you. I see you and hear you very well.
Yeah. I had the two books published with my co-author William Saunders. They were published with North Atlantic Books, and since those two books came out, I had a few science papers published with William Saunders and some scientists that are part of the. There's the book.
Yep.
Part of the Society for Planetary SETI Research. And this current book that I have published by Bear and Company
And here's your.
is, well, that's the Cydonia Codex. Yep. That was with North Atlantic Books and my co-author, William Saunders. William's a geologist. He's up in Calgary, Canada. I met him on the old Richard Hoagland discussion board, and we worked on two books together early on. in 2005 and 2009, the Cydonia Codex and the Martian Codex. And since then, both Bill and I became members of the Society for Planetary SETI Research, which is all the members of that society are all of the luminaries that were some of the original scientists that were looking into the Cydonia area on Mars, the face on Mars, the D&M pyramid. People like Dr. Brandenburg, Dr. Mark Carlotto, Stanley McDaniel, all these people, Dr. Tom Van Franlin, and they all had books published through North Atlantic Books that dealt with all of these anomalous formations on Mars. And Bill and I were lucky to get picked up by North Atlantic Books. Like I said, we had our first 2 books published with them. And since then, we worked on some science papers, and I kind of went out on my own. Bill was doing his own research. William Saunders, he's a geologist or geomorphologist, actually, up in Canada. And over the last 20 years, 30 years, I mean, this is all part of the research that went into this new book that I had. And about 5 years ago, I was sending it off to numerous publishers trying to get it printed and published. And I was lucky to get it picked up by Barron Company, and it'll be out in January, on January 7th, next year, 2025. I'm pretty excited.
No, that sounds like a good book coming up. And I just flashed that first picture of it, and I'm sure you have a PowerPoint, the presentation. I think George that you're talking about, and George Haas is the guest here, and we're talking about Mars and those that are interested in Mars and everything that's been going on there between NASA. I'll have to get George's opinion about NASA if he's worked with. George, have you worked with NASA?
No, I've worked with NASA, but not directly with them, but I use their images, and I'm probably a thorn in their side because people like myself, there's a lot of Mars independent researchers that study these pictures that NASA releases, and NASA tends to they release thousands and thousands of pictures, and normally NASA just releases them without any kind of commentary. The only real structures they talk about are the face on Mars, constantly saying that it doesn't exist. It's just a trick of light and shadow. And occasionally they'll make some comments about any kind of geological formations that some scientist does a science paper on. But normally NASA is pretty silent about anything they release. It's kind of like a photographer that takes pictures of all kinds of anomalies around the world and then just throws them in a drawer and ignores them.
Now, George, do people have I guess they have the right to disbelieve NASA, but there's a lot of people who say their pictures are brushed out or painted out, with the anomalies that they don't want to show people. Do you think that's true, George? Is that possible?
Well, there are occasions where I've seen pretty strong evidence that NASA has airbrushed or just copy and pasted areas to block things out. Mm-hmm. Overall, the NASA photographs that are released are pretty legitimate. And it's only because NASA doesn't know what they're looking at that they don't see the anomalies or the structure. Because most of the scientists at NASA, the people that are running the show, as they say, they're looking for geology. They're looking at formations that they want to find out, what happened to Mars? How did it have all of this destruction at one point? How did it lose all of its water? So they're always looking at the geology. And so they're really not looking for structures because according to the scientists that are working for NASA, there's no reason to look for structures because there isn't any on Mars. So why would you even think about it? So that's not even in their preview of looking at these formations. So a lot of times things are hidden in plain sight that they don't even see.
Right. What is your opinion on the ancient history of Mars? Do you think there was a war there? And did we come from Mars, or were we transplanted from one planet to another? George, what do you think about that?
Well, there's a lot of evidence that we are the Martians, as Richard Hoagland said back in the 80s from his research. But Mars is a planet that has had and our whole solar system's had a very complex history, which we really don't have time to go into that tonight. But At one time, Mars was a thriving Earth-like planet. Something happened. It lost its atmosphere. It appears that a planet next to it, the asteroid belt, blew up between Mars and Jupiter. We don't. It's kind of like Star Wars, where they had the star weapon that blew up the planet. We don't know what happened. Either it was a geological problem with the planet, or maybe it was attacked and intentionally blown up. But our whole asteroid belt is the remnants, I believe, and also there's a lot of scientists, including Dr. Tom Van Franlin, that called this the Planet X that had blown up at some point in our past. And that's what created our asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And whatever civilization that caused that also caused the demise of the civilization on Mars. And when that happened, interestingly about 65 million years ago. Yeah. And we all know that the dinosaurs all died 65 million years ago.
Right.
And it's my opinion, and this is supported by other scientists that talk about the gravitational pull of our solar system, which coincides with the destruction of the dinosaurs, that with the destruction of this planet X, it caused all of the planets that were closer to the sun to go closer. They were pushed into the sun. That's what burned up Venus, because when Planet X blew up, all of our planets moved closer to the sun, causing more gravity. Because if you were to create a dinosaur today, they couldn't stand up. They're just too freaking huge. Yeah. You can't do Jurassic Park. They're just way too big.
Right.
So there was a gravity problem. Earth had less gravity because we were further away from the sun. And when this planet blew up during some type of war or some kind of destruction, it caused all the planets to go in towards the sun, burned up Venus, and all the dinosaurs died because of gravity, not because of a meteor hitting the planet.
There's another theory, too, that there was much more oxygen back 65 million years ago or more, and the oxygen caused these critters, dinosaurs, and even insects to even grow larger.
Well, the oxygen coincides with the position of Earth and all the planets. When they moved in closer to the sun, that changed everything. Mm-hmm. So the dinosaurs basically died because of gravity. That's why turtles and all of the lower reptiles still survived, because they were smaller and there wasn't much of a problem with the gravity. And it's my contention, which we discuss in the book, that the inhabitants of Mars, because of this destruction, they were planning ahead because they saw destruction, and they moved to Earth. And because the dinosaurs were gone, they were able to set up shop here on Earth. And to make a long story short, we are probably descendants of the Martians.
That's the first time I've heard that theory about gravity destroying a lot of these large animals, or these large dinosaurs.
Well, there's actually a few scientists that have done some papers. If the listeners out there want to just look into gravity and the dinosaurs, there's a couple actual. I mean, I'm not a scientist; I'm an artist, but I'm using other people's work to describe this, and also Dr. Brandenburg, who's a nuclear physicist, a plasma physicist. He actually has had 2 or 3 papers published about the Xeon 129 phenomenon that NASA detected on Mars during the Viking missions, which were detected during the earlier missions also, which were able to detect some of the atmospheric conditions of the planet. They found this Xeon 129, which is an element that is caused by nuclear explosions from manufactured nuclear explosions. So John Brandenburg believes that Mars was the victim of 2 nuclear explosions that happened above the surface that destroyed the Cydonia area, and also the on the other side of the planet, on the eastern side, the Utopia area.
Okay.
Which we were originally supposed to land. The original Viking missions were going to land in the Utopia area, but they were supposed to land. I'm sorry, they were supposed to land over the Cydonia area, but they went over to the Utopia area. That's where the original Vikings landed.
Another theory is that we humans, millions of years ago, or even probably 100,000 years ago, we were taller and bigger, like the Nephilim giants. We don't know if those are ETs or all. They could have been mixed up. They could have been here on Earth way before us. They they quit growing so big. And also, there's ice caps on Mars. Is that true? Is there water there, George?
Oh yeah, the ice caps are full of water. NASA's constantly releasing information about uh, water in the past on Mars, finding meteorites that show there's water. We all, NASA scientists are all convinced that there was water at one time, but they just don't want to say how long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes around and around in circles. But what happened was after this catastrophe where the planet X blew up and Mars was destroyed, it appears that the Martians came to Earth, and the mythology and the stories we hear about Atlantis with these advanced civilizations in the past, I believe the Martians that came to Earth, which is us, went back to Mars. And a lot of these structures that we're finding on Mars, which are in my book, were built after this original catastrophe where Planet X blew up. And it's kind of like this scenario that I'm looking at with when we went back to Mars. Mm-hmm. This is, unrecorded time, probably a million years ago, that we went back to Mars. We set up a civilization, kind of like the Americans when we left the British continent.
Right.
We left Britain, we came the colonies to America. After a while, we said, hey, we want to have our own constitution. We want to, have our own lives to live here. And there was the Revolutionary War. And I think we had a similar event happen on Mars when we set up settlements on Mars, and the earthbound culture said, hey, you got to abide by our laws. And they had some kind of conflict. And those are the ruins that we're seeing today, which are probably no more than 20 to 50,000 years old.
Wow.
The ruins that we're seeing up there now.
Now, your book, The Great Architects of Mars, Evidence for the Lost Civilizations on the Red Planet. I'm going to read your synopsis of the book so people get a handle on it. The book begins by taking a closer look at Carl Sagan's famous pyramids of Elysium, including
Elysium. Yeah, Elysium. I know all these Latin words are tough.
Yeah, I know. I'm having a hard time. My tongue just flips around. But
I know.
High-resolution images acquired after Sagan's death. From there, the author investigates a pair of settlements in the Nepenthes Massey region of the Red Planet that includes pictographic and geometric formations representing a five-sided star and a hexagonal pyramid along the geoglyphic formations representing a dove and a killer whale. Moving on to the Libya Montes region, an author reveals a keyhole-shaped formation identical in design to ancient tombs built in Japan. Traveling to the Atlantis Chaos region, Haas investigates the remains of an ancient city nestled along a dead lake that resembles a grid of broken walls and shattered foundations. He then explores a highly detailed parrot-shaped geoglyph in the large impact crater known as Argyll Basin, and two geologists and four veterinarians found two posses, or what is that? What do you use that word? Is posses 22?
I don't know what you're reading.
Yeah, it's POSSES. It's posses. I don't catch that word. It's posses 22 point of an anatomical correctness with terrestrial parrots. The book closes by offering two mythological stories provided by the Anunnaki, and a Mesopotamia, and a Mayan, and Mesoamerica that record an occupation of both Earth and Mars. The author summarizes the Anunnaki story as translated by Zachariah and Sitchin and introduces the reader to a lesser-known Mayan story disclosed by the well-known epigrapher Simon Martian about a star war between the cities of Naranjo and Tikal with the occupants of Mars over 800,000 years ago. So this all began 800,000 years ago, right, George?
Yeah, the Maya record. It's a Maya Star War. I know it sounds like the Star Wars epic. With we're all familiar with the sci-fi movie, but this is actually written in Maya text. Talks about this war between the Maya and Naranjo and Tikal and Cozumel, all around that area, and they had this ancient battle with the occupants of Mars, which we discussed in the book.
Okay.
Are you ready for the slideshow? I got it all set up.
Right. That's what I was just going to ask you.
I don't know if we can see it, but I got it on my screen.
Okay. You can hit the share button on yours.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you see the green thing there at the
No,
bottom?
I got to get out of this. Okay, let's see. Exit. Okay, down, down. Where are we?
Share at the bottom.
I'm trying to get you. Here you are. Okay. All right, we're looking for share. I don't see no share. Oh, here it is. Share screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit that, and then you got to hit the top button, I believe.
All right, you got me there.
Okay, I got you.
I
All
guess
right,
that's it.
I got it.
All right.
Okay, good job.
You want me to do full screen or something?
Sure, you can go full screen.
I'm trying to get to it. Uh,
Or you can scroll up.
all right, bear with me.
Okay.
Come on, where the heck is it? Oh God. All right.
Okay.
Slideshow from beginning. Okay, is that it?
That's it. You got it.
All right. So the viewers can see that, or the listeners?
Sure, they can see that. I can see it.
All
So
right.
let's see it.
So this is we'll start with this is the Great Architects of Mars, evidence of lost civilizations on the Red Planet. All right, where's my come on little thing down here? All right, do you all see that?
I see it. Yes.
That's Elysium.
Elysium. Okay.
Elysium. See this little dot here? All the viewers, that's where we're looking at. That this is the area over here where my little cursor is. That's where Cydonia is. That's what everybody's familiar with when they think of Mars. This is where the face on Mars is.
Okay.
Where's my little arrow? Over here. So we're going directly across on the eastern side to this area here that I have the little dot. That's the Elysium. That's where we're at. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
All right, Dave.
Elysium.
Now,
Elysium. I got it.
Elysium.
Yes.
Back in all right. Back in 1972, the Mariner 9 spacecraft flew over Mars and took great pictures. They were pretty sharp. This is a pyramid. You see it?
Yep.
Three-sided pyramid. These pyramids were noticed by the famous Carl Sagan. We all know Carl Sagan. This is the famous Carl Sagan pyramids that he discovered back in the 70s. This is a three-sided pyramid. He made a big thing about this at the time. He had interviews. He actually did a talk in 1977 at the Royal Institute of in London, discussing planetary bodies and things in that in our solar system. And he focused on this area. And he was very intrigued by this. He thought these looked very artificial. And we discussed that in the book.
Yeah. NASA said their argument is it was a shadow type of thing, and they got different angles, and they saw it was different.
No. This they had two images of this, and they were very sharp. This was not like the face on Mars, where it was like shadows, and these were very precise images that Carl Sagan said needed to be investigated, which was pretty remarkable from someone who was very conservative with his ideas about artificial structures on another planet. And he features this formation on his 1980s television show, The Cosmos. Mm-hmm. And he in 1980, this was also featured in his book, The Cosmos. So he was very interested in this. Unfortunately, NASA took some pictures from the Viking mission, which was after this in the 70s. And you can, I don't have the image here, but in the book, it shows that the Viking image was awful. It was very grainy, and it really didn't resolve the question of were these structures or just a trick of light and shadow, as they say with the face on Mars. So it was never resolved. And unfortunately, Carl Sagan died in 1996 and never got an opportunity to see any higher resolution images of this, which is very unfortunate. And of course, this is Carl Sagan with his book and his TV miniseries from the 1980s, which was very successful. And he did feature this formation in his book and on TV. This next slide, this shows the 1972 Mariner 9 image of the formation. You see that there, Dave?
Right, I see it.
And on the right side is an image from way currently, moving way ahead, way past Carl Sagan's time, to 2007, showing a nice crisp image of this form. This is the same form. You can actually see this crack in the surface. This is actually right here. So it's actually a pretty good image.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's his pyramid that he was interested in. I'm sure he would have been very impressed by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter image, but
George,
unfortunately,
Carl,
he was not around.
Carl Sagan wasn't a real big believer in ETs, was he?
No, he wasn't, but he knew geometry when he saw it, and that was one of his diagnostic points for looking at structures on another planet. If he saw geometry, then you'd have to raise a red flag, and you want to look at it closely. This is another pyramid right next to where his original pyramid was, again showing a highly geometric formation, showing a lot of pyramids on Mars are three-sided. On Earth, of course, in Egypt, we have four-sided pyramids. We have four-sided pyramids in China, all over the world. That seems to be the pattern for pyramids on Earth. But on Mars, I have a whole collection of pyramids on Mars, and they all seem to be three-sided. Now, the three-sided pyramid is the tetrahedral pyramid, which goes back to Richard Hoagland's whole discussion about tetrahedral geometry, which is actually a four-sided pyramid if you count the bottom. That's what makes it tetrahedral. And so all these pyramids we're finding are very three-sided on Mars. And so this is another beautiful.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
What I'm observing, George, is that these pyramids are in the middle of nowhere where there's no other rock formations. Is that true?
Right. Everything here next to the famous Sagan pyramids, these are all isolated. There's actually, if the listeners want to investigate the book and order it, this whole area of the Carl Sagan pyramids, all these pyramids appear to be in a circular pattern. There's like a circle. There's three of them which is discussed in the book. And that seems to be a typical pattern of Mesoamerican and American Indians that do these patterns with their mounds and stuff. When you look at it from an aerial view, the whole composite of the settlement appears to be in a circular pattern. So these aren't the only patterns in the pyramids in the area. Now, Dave, these are two different, what I call shield-shaped pyramids. They're five-sided. They're like star forts that you would find on Earth that were constructed during the American Civil War. We had a lot of star-shaped forts. These are two almost identical formations that are in the same area, right next to Sagan's pyramids. Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, being identical kind of gives it away a little bit. I'd think. I don't know.
Well, I mean, being identical is pretty bizarre for something supposed to be, a natural formation. These are obviously constructed formations. Now, these little points that you see here, the readers or the listeners will notice that when they read the book, that those points are very indicative to following the circular pattern of the settlement, which these groupings of pyramids are in. But these two are just extraordinary, and they look a lot like star forts that were produced on Earth. Look at this.
Yes.
This is in Uruguay. This is a star fort. Has almost the same 5 points. It's remarkable. Could you imagine this, Dave, covered with dirt and sand that would look almost identical?
Yeah.
What was
George, this is the first time I've seen this. I've been watching.
They would look almost identical to what you're seeing on Mars. It's unbelievable.
No, I've never seen that formation before.
Well, in America, we produced a lot of star forts during, like I said, during the Civil War and the early days of America. And these star forts were very, military, and they could, because of their shape, they were very defensive shape. So whatever is on Mars here, these seem to be very defensive structures. And God knows what's inside these. These are probably halls of records and all kinds of information's inside.
Or you think there's some underground activity or ETs or people living underground there at Mars?
Currently, we have no evidence of any. I think these are all ruins, Dave. There's nobody there that I've seen. There doesn't appear to be any activity. these are just the remnants from I think the second occupation of Mars. Like I said, when we went back to Mars, and there was another conflict, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of these Mars, the rover that drives around taking pictures of the terrain, and there's all kinds of weird. It looks like things have just blown up all over the place. It looks like old car chassis and metal pieces, rebarb twisted and turned, and it's all over the place. There was obviously some type of conflict going on.
What's that? It looks like a little road. It looks like a
Yeah,
hangman.
this is a road that comes in the middle of this. Yeah.
It's like a hangman's noose, George.
Easy now, Dave.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move over to another area of the planet that this is Nepenthes Mesa. Now, you saw the other place on Mars was over here. Now we're moving towards the west. We're right over here. Again, this is the area where the famous face on Mars. You can see a lot of what you're going to see tonight is most of these structures are within 30 to 40 degrees above the equator or below the equator. Everything is in this area.
And what is the coloring for, George?
This is a MOA image that NASA produced. This is a huge crater here, which they're putting blue because it shows the depth. This is deep, and the light blue is low. This darker stuff here is the higher elevation, then it gets lower and lower. The yellow, green, and blue is like, this is, according to a lot of researchers, this whole blue area is probably where there was an ocean.
Yeah, that's
okay. This is all water. There's water here. There's water, deep oceans here, and Cydonia, interestingly, is right. A lot of these, see, they're right on the shore. Cydonia, where the face on, they're all along the shoreline. The other, which we talked about, the Sagan pyramids, they're right along the shoreline. They're all next to the shore, where you would think to find structures.
All those edges around there, around these land areas, they look like they've been water washed, George.
Exactly. They call this the paleo ocean of Mars, and you can see the water comes right in here through where you have the the large scarring here. Interesting. So this is where we're going next. This is another star-shaped formation, which looks very much like a star fort called Fort Henry, which was built in Tennessee. And this dates back to 1861. This was all part of the Revolutionary or the Civil War. This is a Civil War or Revolutionary War piece, and it has this interesting flat part of the star, which you see here. It's almost reflective. It's like this is almost the same identical thing. You see that? This flat part, you have the same thing here.
And you're showing something I think a lot of people haven't seen before. I know I haven't. I thought I followed up on a lot of Mars, geographical things here.
Right. Well, a lot of people haven't even seen this Fort Henry from Tennessee. Now, currently, this structure is underwater. They did the Tennessee water during the I don't know when they did this. They flooded the whole area, so this is currently underwater. This whole structure. This is just a little model of what it looked like. But I compare it here because it's very similar. It even has little buildings in here, and you see you have a dome here with little buildings here. Yeah. It's extraordinary. This is a five-sided hexagonal pyramid on Mars. I just did an outline here showing you. This is right next to that star-shaped formation. Do you see that? Yes. It's a step type of pyramid.
Where did they get all this building material, George?
Well, they were either Dr. Brandenburg believes that a lot of these cultures did like mound building, like American Indians did.
Okay.
These were all earthen type mounds. Of course, it wouldn't be earth; it was on Mars, but type of earthen materials. But this one also has strong geometry. It has 5 points. You don't find this in nature.
No, you don't.
Directly below this is a whole complex. I call this the conjoined temple complex. Each of these areas are set on platforms. There's a platform that surrounds these, and I discussed that in the book. And when I have outlined the structures here. Do you see that, Dave?
I see it, George. Yeah, it looks interesting. I've never.
It is all highly geometric, highly symmetrical. This is all in one area. You would not find this normally in any kind of environment. This is artificial. This screams of artificiality. Do you
This,
see that?
and this is
It's
something.
especially. I mean, look at this thing. This is a large tube here. I mean, it's obviously got a few meteor hits,
Right.
but this is a large cylindrical piece. There's a pyramid here, an oval. There's a square, another pyramid. This object here, we'll look at a little bit later. There's another rectangular structure here, another square. This here on a platform with a circular and a rod. It's just amazing. And this is all discussed in the book.
Yeah, and NASA
I go through each of these. These are I call these treks. There's four of them.
yeah, NASA probably saw these things and they just kind of pushed it back to the side, right, George? Maybe.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, they look at this and they just think it's geology. They don't even have the thought that this could possibly be something that's not natural.
They don't want it to be.
No, they don't want to believe. This is the close up of the one I called the crown kite. That's this one here, this formation here. You see that, Dave?
Yep.
And then we're looking at that close. I mean, look at the geometry of this thing. This part here is a little deteriorated, but you can see the line here. You see it?
No.
So this is a very symmetrical piece. I call it like I said, the crown, the kite, and it's just remarkable.
It looks like a spaceship, George.
It does. But this is probably just some type of structure that's meant to look like this.
Now,
but it does look like this could fly.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of battles or what kind of war did they have? Did they have? It was nuclear, I guess, George.
Well, the first one was when it really devastated the whole planet. I don't know how bad the last one was, but it looks like it was more of a conventional type battle because we see a lot of things blown up. If you had nuclear weapons like they had originally, that Dr. Brandenburg talked about with the first destruction of Mars, because these are different. People want to think of Mars like, oh, Mars had life at one time and it was that simple. No, it was very complicated. There was many, like the two different epochs of Mars. Like when it first blew up, they came to Earth, then they went back. That's what it looked, because these structures are too new. These aren't that old. Like my geologist friend William Saunders, him and I spoke about this, and we think these are no more than 20 to 50,000 years old. These aren't that old.
Well, a lot of scientists think our human race has been off here and gone on Earth 7 times throughout the eons.
Right. So God knows how old they're. And of course, Mars, you don't have a lot of weather. You don't have a lot of deterioration. So these things could last a long time. But I don't think they would have survived the nuclear attack that Dr. Brandenburg talks about. Right. That was an earlier epoch. So there was two. Mars was the subject of many destructions. I mean, that's why it's the planet of war. Mars is the god of war. I mean, Mars is a tough place, and it's gone through a lot.
You think NASA has taken a look at these things, George?
No.
They might be looking at your book. They check everything out,
Well, we'll get into that a little later. They know who I am, and they know Bill Saunders, my co-author. I mean, they're aware of the Society for Planetary Study Research. Have you ever had Dr. Brandenburg on?
No.
Oh God, you need to have him on. He's amazing. But he's the one that detected the Xeon 129, which is a signature for man-made nuclear explosions. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm just copying what you just told me.
Okay. Well, I'll send you some information about Dr. Brandenburg actually does one of the forwards for my book, so he's in there.
Oh, okay.
I have two forwards for the book. Dr. John Brandenburg and James Miller, who's an image analyst, and he's a founder of the Anomaly Hunters discussion board, and he does a forward also. So the next piece is, as you can see, you see this platform that's sitting on, and then it has the circle here, and then there's the rod. This is Meso. Oh, I'm sorry. This is um, a early indigenous American Indian platform. This is a platform with a circle and a rod, just like we see on Mars. Do you see that comparison?
Yeah, I do. The
It's
only
the
thing
same
about
signature.
the only thing about these pictures is, or you can't get. I guess the average person, you probably can see these things right out, but the average person that has this, you got this depth perception. How how deep it is and what it looks like from the side. Those
Right.
those would be the pictures, I guess, that would prove out
Right.
everything.
Well, this here's a platform. It's raised, and then there's a circular platform here which has a dome on it, and this platform here has another, you know, rod-shaped formation like this, which is, you don't have to have a real stretch of imagination. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to show is it's common architecture. Where does it come from? Why did American Indians want to do this when it looks just like this?
Right. Did I had a guest on, I don't want to say his name, but he talked to Native American Indians, and NASA actually wanted to take Native American Indians to Mars with the other astronauts in order to teach them how to see things or perceive things in, I guess,
Really?
yeah. This is something that the Native American Indians nothing would scare them about some of this technology that you're showing here, and the shapes and the geometric things that are going on. The Native American Indians could help the astronauts understand that. And yeah, there was a study with that, and it's through NASA. Uh,
Wow. I had never heard that, but as you can see here, it makes sense.
I
So
could.
maybe NASA's paying more attention than I think.
Yeah, I don't want to mention the scientist's name, but he was talking about that, and so yeah, it was interesting because
Well, if you could send me a link to that, I'd love to read that.
yeah, Native American Indians have had a lot of experiences with ETs and going back and forth to different planets, actually in their travels. Uh,
Right.
they smoke that peyote and they're gone. I mean, not really. That it's not. I'm not making it sound bad, but they do. That's how they go and travel away. Their minds go and their consciousness goes to
Right. It's kind of like the Aborigines. They have the dream time.
right, right, George. That's it.
Well, moving a little further from the area that we were just at, this is a little further to the I think the west or the east. We're moving east past that area, and this is another strange elongated hexagonal formation. You can see here it's very precise in its geometry. You see that, Dave?
Yes, I see it. And what's all these other little things before? I guess maybe I'm getting ahead of you. What's all these other little things that are around it? I see some holes, meteorite holes, but they look like little triangles. Are
Well, right here is a pyramid. You see the triangle
Yeah,
pyramid? I just outlined that there. That's right next to it.
right.
But these outlines here, very precise lines of geometry, and it's got this big mound in the middle.
Okay.
Well, are you sitting down, Dave?
I'm sitting down. Yes.
All right, hold on.
I'm holding on.
This is in Turkey. It's the same freaking thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
But here you see you got like all these little city buildings over here.
Mhm.
And this one, it's on it's like a mirror reflection. Here's all the little city on top of this mound. This is a big mound at the center. You have the same mound, the same shape. This is an image that was taken by the Corona satellite, and this was taken in 1969. I was perusing the internet looking for something that could be actually looking for something else, and I found this, and I said, "Holy crap! That looks like the elongated hexagonal mound on Mars."
Yeah. George, how old is this geometric piece here?
Or this one on the Earth.
Yes.
That's probably maybe 2,000 years old,
Okay.
and they took this image in 1960s. And the website that was doing the study of the Corona satellite images, they have the contemporary picture of this. This whole western side is full of buildings. You wouldn't even see it. Thank God we had this picture from 1968, because this whole area over here now in the, 2020 2020 or whatever the date was, this is all built up over here, so you wouldn't even recognize it.
What we're thinking, I guess, this could be older. They said age. We have a hard time finding out exactly how old something is anymore. It's thousands and thousands of years older than what we think. Do you think that the people that come from the Mars they come to Earth and built this in Turkey, George?
Yeah, I think the same architect. That's why I'm talking about the architects. I think the same architects that built stuff on Mars built stuff here, and it's like when you build a square house and you have a dining room and a living room and a kitchen and two baths.
Right.
You build the same thing all the time. I think they did the same thing. That's how they built places. This was their architectural marker. This was how they did their blueprints. So that's why we're finding all these similar designs, is because it was the same culture.
Yeah, and you are showing stuff that I think hasn't been seen very much at all from people, with people, George. That's
Oh no. Well, thank you.
yeah, really,
I've been working on this for 30 years, Dave.
you're showing you're showing some.
Now we're moving over to Libya Mounds.
Okay.
Now you see we're moving our way over. You see, now we're over here. We were over here, now we're here. So this stuff is all, like I said, within 30 to 40 degrees from the equator. Okay? This is where we're at now. And this is Libya Mounds. This is called the keyhole structure.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Yes, I've heard of the keyhole structure. Yes.
Right. It looks like NASA called this an exclamation mark when they first took this picture. It's got where's my cursor here? It's got a circular portion on the bottom, and then you've got your wedge. We did a science paper on this called the wedge and dome formation, which is a keyhole. This again, Dave, is out in the middle of nowhere. If you look at the book, you'll see it's like sitting in the middle of a desert. It's like all by itself. How did it get there? Why is it there? But if you're flying over, you're like, it's going to just jump out at you, this geometry.
Wasn't the keyhole thing related to like a portal or a time traveling, George?
Well, traditionally, keyholes have to do with death. Uh, there's the keyhole formations are universal. It's all over the world. We find it in the Maya hieroglyphs. It's been used in Egyptian iconography. It's mentioned in the book. Contemporary people that do land art use keyhole formations. This image here shows the symmetrical geometry of the formation. I mean, this does not happen in nature. For you to have like wind erosion, which would be coming down the wedge, it would totally destroy the dome. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's that simple. Because if the geologists are saying, well, this triangle was caused by wind erosion, how did it not destroy this? You know what I'm saying? We discussed this in the book. So the wind would come down here and this would be gone. It doesn't just stop. So this just shows that this is something that was artificially constructed. And it's an exquisite geometry. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's not art. It's not.
And all of these letters here, this is all the analysis done by William Saunders, a geologist or geomorphologist. And we had another geologist look at this, Michael Dale, and he's credited in the book about all of his analysis also. So it's pretty amazing. These kind of keyhole formations. This is in Saudi Arabia. This is these are burial tombs. Again, with your wedge and dome. You can go on the internet and Google, and you can find these all over the place out in Saudi Arabia. These were constructed and used as tombs.
So
you see that?
Yeah, it's a death. It deals with death, not
right.
Not time travel.
Exactly.
All right, got you, George. Got you. But
Where's my little
this is magnificent. I mean, you're finding the same thing on Earth as you're finding on Mars, and it just
I know it's mind-boggling. I mean, it makes you get dizzy. You want to fall over.
it smacks you right between the eyes and said, "We were there before we got here."
Well, look at this. Look at this one, Dave. This is the keyhole on Mars compared to the Kufan tombs. These are in Japan. These are all over in Japan. Nobody even talks about them. They're all over the place. these were burial tombs for the elite, and these they think date back to probably the culture that was in on Japan before the Japanese came there. There's a lot of controversy about where the Japanese came from because they're very similar to the Chinese. I mean, they came out of China and they found this island down there called Japan, and the indigenous people they had killed, kind of like when the British went to Australia. They killed all the Aborigines.
Right.
The last full-blooded Aborigine, I think, died in the 50s. There's no more full-blooded Aborigines in Australia. But the same kind of thing happened in Japan. And these are keyhole formations. They were used as tombs. And the comparison here is pretty striking.
It is. It is. I'm kind of blown away, George, on some of these pictures. There's a big comparison. It just.
Well, that's why I'm here, Dave.
Your book is going to be exciting because there's a lot of stuff that you're showing us right now that I know a lot of people haven't seen. I know I haven't seen it, and I've been looking at Mars pictures. We only see certain ones on TV and ones they compare them with, but nothing like this, George. This is
well, NASA and the media like to show things that are silly.
Right.
If somebody says, "Oh, it's like the smiley face crater," or there's the current one is the crater that looks like a bear face. NASA finds a bear face on Mars. I mean, it's all over the place. These are just silly little, phenomenons that they're finding. But anything like this, they just totally ignore because they don't want to show this. They'd rather you look at a smiley face on Mars, which is probably a natural formation, as opposed to something like this that has real symmetry and geometry to it. Which that's science. I mean, that shows, like Carl Sagan said, when you're looking on another planet for structures, the first thing you look for is geometry.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, George, the one on the right that's in Japan, that's made of stone, and this one on the left in Mars, it is also made of stone because it wouldn't last this.
Correct. Yeah. Well, the one in Japan is like an earthen mound.
Okay.
Like American Indians would build.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too far away from Cahokia Mountain, so I know a little bit about that. Yeah.
Right.
But I did.
The keyhole formation was featured in the Journal of Space Exploration back in 2016. So we have a science paper that was published that featured the keyhole. Okay. This paper was written by myself and William Saunders, Michael Dale, and James Miller. But, of course, nobody knows about it.
Now, what?
So we got some credibility here, Dave. We got published.
I see that. Yeah. What is that? That is a satellite of what's the name of that satellite?
I think that's the space station.
Space station.
Yeah. Well, it has nothing to do with the topics in the magazine. That's just their cover.
Oh, okay.
They change the cover every year.
I didn't recognize the satellite
right.
Space station.
But so we were very excited about that. We're moving on now to Atlantis Chaos. Now, Atlantis Chaos, we're moving right across, but actually we had Elysium over here. If you go that way, we're right over here to Atlantis Chaos. Do you see that?
Now, who names all these names, George?
Oh, NASA in the 50s, they decided to name all of these areas on Mars after Greek and Roman mythology.
You think there's a deeper connection to the names, George?
Well, sometimes, like the Cydonia area, which has the face on Mars, the word Cydonia, you have Sedona, Arizona.
Been there a lot, yeah.
Right, Sedona, that's Cydonia. Do you know where the word Cydonia comes from?
No.
Listen to this, Dave. They were the master builders of Solomon's temple. If you go in the Bible and you look up Solomon's temple, you'll see that it was built by the Sidonians, spelt with a Z, the Zidonians. They were the master builders that took all the information from Lebanon, and they were the master builders. So NASA just happens to call the area where we have the face on Mars and we have all of the pyramids and all the alignments that Richard Hoagland talked about with the significance of 19.5 tetrahedral geometry is in Cydonia, which is named after the master builders of Solomon's temple. You can't make this stuff up, Dave.
No, you can't. I mean, you got pictures. Yeah, it looks great. I'm enjoying this. This kind of really cements my thoughts about Nassau trying to scrub things away and try to pass by things like, oh, it's nothing to look at, you know. But I think when you get detailed like you're getting, uh, it's I think it really makes a statement, George.
Well, thanks, Dave. It's a lot of work. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, yeah. No, writing a book by itself is exhausting.
And
Never,
I
never mind.
right. Well, my first two books I did with William Saunders. This I did all by myself, so it was a lot of work. This is some of the in this the Atlantis chaos. This is what we call the Martian Atlantis. Do you see the grid work here?
Yeah, looks like cities.
It does. You see the domed. This is like in Washington D.C. You have the dome here.
Mhm.
There's a house here, building. See the sides, little chimney, the back port. Over here is a tower structure. You see it?
Yeah.
And there's stuff everywhere. And look at the broken compartmentalized areas of these structures. It's pretty amazing. This is all a compartment. These squares are about 20 by 20 feet. That's what they measure. So they're all uniform, and you don't have that in nature. In the book, my geologist friend William Saunders, he talks about the possibility of this being a geological formation, and compares it to known geology that would create similar patterns. And there's nothing that we know of that could produce this.
I've never seen anything like that on Earth that they pictured. It
No.
like cities and
Have you seen this before?
no, no. I guess I haven't seen. I've seen. I thought I saw a lot about Mars pictures and everything, but you're showing me something stuff that I've never seen before, and I'm sure a lot of people out there when they see this, they'll say, "Yeah, I've never seen that either." But this is definitely looks like streets and a city and a
Oh
house,
yeah.
20 by 20. That's about the size of probably a house or whatever they were living in at the time.
Right. Well, these are similar to these, compartmentalized houses that you see over in Saudi Arabia, where one house is connected to the other one. I'll show you some comparisons here. Yeah, see, this is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
All these, and it looks very similar to. I mean, look at the walls. You
Yeah,
can see the depth. These are rooms.
amazing. I
It's
love.
like Dresden after World War II.
Yeah, wow. Of course, the ones on Mars are probably made of stone, and these are probably made of all kinds of
Well,
material.
these are probably clay. These are all clay, sand, brick, stone things, and a lot of them are missing the roofs, which is very much like you're seeing here. The roofs are all been blown off.
Right. So the roofs were made of softer material. Maybe
Right.
did they have wood on Mars? You think, George? Have you ever found any that they used wood?
I don't. I think most of their stuff was made of stone and earthen materials. You know, wood would be long gone. I think. You know, as the archaeologists say, the ancient cultures, they built things to last. They built them out of stone. The stone pyramids, the Mesopotamian. The problem, a lot of the Mesopotamian structures, they were made of mud brick, and they just like melted into the scenery. You don't even notice that they're, you see a big mound of dirt, and they go, "Well, that used to be a pyramid," but it looks like a blob of clay right now.
Right. Yeah. Huh.
But this is just remarkable.
And who named it the Martian Atlantis? Do you know who did that, George?
Uh, this was I think it was one of the earlier researchers. I can't. It's mentioned in the book. I should have highlighted that, but yeah, because this is located in an area called Atlantis Chaos.
Mhm.
That we just started calling I think everybody started calling it the Martian Atlantis.
The reason why is because I'm trying to find the origination of these ideas of where the names come from and who did the naming, because that has a lot to do with what they were thinking at the time. Also, George. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like I don't know why they came up with these names, but if you go on the internet, tomorrow, whenever we're done here, and just type in Martian Atlantis, you'll see, and go into images on Google, you'll see all kinds of stuff. A lot of people have been working on this. This just shows a close up of this barn looking building here with rocks, and you got your dome, like the Capitol dome here. Like when you had Nagasaki, when they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki, you still had the central building was still there, but everything else was flattened out.
Right.
This is kind of like ground zero. These three buildings are still there, but everything else has been flattened out.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So you have this temple here with very ziggy zaggy. You got your dome with the little peak here, and then this is kind of like a huge barn with a chimney and back part that looks like it goes down into some rocks. But it's pretty remarkable that you could see the detail, and of course all these structures.
Now,
This
do you think that all these structures were built by, hominids like us, humans? Did they look like us?
Yeah, I think this is where we came from. This is our work.
Okay.
And I think once we go there and start digging around, we're going to find that we are the Martians, just like Richard Hoagland once said.
Yeah.
Now, this is below the city of the Atlantis on Mars. This is directly below that. These are 4 or 5 large structures. This formation here, there's one here, there's one here, this whole amazing thing here, and then there's another structure here. Do you see the outlines?
Yeah, I was starting to see the outlines before you even drew them. I'm
Right.
starting to catch on to your geography here.
Right. So these are like the ruined foundations. These are huge buildings here. Unlike the 20 by 20 box formations that we were seeing up in the city, this is below that. These are much larger. These things they're huge. They're like a half a mile long. They're pretty big. And the interesting thing about these, Dave, is that we had our friend James Miller measure these, and it's all described in the book. They all have a similar dimensions. They're all almost like they used a set size dimension, and they're all repeated. Have you heard of fractal geometry? This is all fractal here. These are all just repeated rectangles over and over again in this area here. Do you see that?
I see it. Yeah.
These are all rectangles repeated over and over in the formation. And if you go back, you can actually see them. They're all over the place, which is pretty bizarre. This here I call the bow tie platform with triangle. This is an arrowhead. This is a formation. This is of course a triangle. This is the second group of 5 formations that is directly below that. Again, we have another triangle. Here we have a chevron. This is a big bell. And this here is a big ruin of a rectangle. This here is another bell shaped. I'll see the formations.
Right.
This is directly again 5 formations that have a common dimensions. Jim measured these, and they all seem to be repeated. Like this is the same length as this. This is the same length as this. This is, it's amazing.
Yeah, that shows some similarities in the culture when they have them all the same size.
So we're moving from where Atlantis chaos was over here. We're moving down to this impact crater, which NASA has blue, meaning it was probably had water in it. So this is again, they're all next to water, Dave.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah.
So here, this is where the RG Basin is.
Right.
This is again next to water.
What's the location of the rovers, George, in comparison to what we're looking at here?
The rovers are around the equator area. I don't know where they're at right now, but they're nowhere near this. I think one's over here somewhere. The current one, he's over here. Just to give the viewers a perspective. This has a parrot formation. Where were we? Which is located right here next to the water. Now this parrot, as you can see, it has a leg that has a claw up here that's kind of like, reaching up like it's in pain. This is a dead parrot. He's been shot there's a feathered dart in his beak right here. See the dart?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a beak. Here's his head. This is the body. His tail goes down. His feathers, you can see feather frets. If you ever looked at a bird, they have the frets of the feather.
Mm-hmm.
These all go up. These are all feathers. He has 22 points of anatomical correctness. Now, this parrot has been examined by 2 geologists and 5 veterinarians. And in their analysis, they all agree that this has 22 points of anatomical correctness. What we're talking about anatomy is they're counting where's my cursor here? They're counting the toes, the elbow joint, the beaks. He's got a tongue. You can actually see the tongue in there. He's got an eye, all of the body, the feathers. And now, if you were to say, well, this look like stargazing, where you're looking into the clouds and you see something that looks like a bird.
Yep.
Well, cloud formations have no more than probably 2 or 3 anatomical points. Most cloud formations are something you'd see in a rock formation that kind of looks like a bird. It's usually just a silhouette. It has no secondary anatomy at all.
You're talking about pareidolia?
Pareidolia, exactly. Now that would account for. Excuse me.
How big is this bird?
He is a mile from the beak. Whoops, where are we? Woo! From his beak all the way to the tail is about a mile long. He's pretty big. The face on Mars is a 1.5 miles long by a mile wide. So everything on Mars is big.
That's a big birdie.
That's a big bird right there.
Yeah. Wow, I wonder if he can talk, if he's a parrot.
Well, it's my contention, along with Bill, studying this. And of course, a lot of things we're finding on Mars appear to have a direct correlation with the cultures of Mesoamerica, Maya, Olmec, Aztec, their mythology, which we'll get to at the end of the presentation here. But we think this is the principal bird deity.
Okay.
Now, the Maya, the principal bird deity, he was a character in the creation mythology. And he was a parrot, which they called also Seven Macaw, being a macaw. Now, he was represented in the celestial skies as the Big Dipper, which has 7 stars. Mm-hmm. So he was called Seven Macaw, or the principal bird deity. According to Maya mythology, in the creation story, the principal bird deity, he stole the sun and hid it. And they had 2 characters called the hero twins in the beginning of the Maya story. And they found the principal bird deity. He was sitting at the top of the world tree with the sun, which is at the navel of the earth.
This parrot wasn't real. This is just, it was.
So this is mythology. Right. Now, American Indians, you have a story about the crow who steals the sun and puts it in the box. Mm-hmm. Same idea. I don't know if you've ever seen the American Indian images of the crow. He's got a sun image in his beak. Yeah. He's stealing the sun. Same idea. But in the Maya, he took the sun. He was sitting up in the world tree, and one of the hero twins took his blow dart and shot him and hit him in the beak, which is right here. There's a blow dart right there. You can see it here. This is blow dart. So he fell down from the world tree on the ground. Here's his foot up. See, he's dead. You know, like Monty Python, we have a dead parrot. This is a dead parrot. Right. His one leg is out across the ground here. This other leg is up in the air, this one here. And his feathers are all up, his wing's up. His other wing is he's laying on his other wing. You understand what I'm saying?
I see it. Mm-hmm.
So he's got the wing up. And so they killed the principal bird deity and retrieved the sun, and they saved the day. That's the whole story about the principal bird deity. And we think this is represented right on Mars. And a lot of the things we find, including the famous face on Mars, is all connected to Mesoamerican iconography.
Now, was it Mars way back when our civilization was there before? How was the gravity then? Was it a low gravity, or where things grew bigger? Humans grew bigger because of gravity?
Well, I think when we went back to Mars, Mars had lower gravity, so we could do more things, move things around, make structures bigger, because we didn't have to fight the gravity. Mm-hmm. I think humans were relatively the same size when they left Mars. Also, this may account for the whole mythology about giants, bigger humans. Yeah, the giants. But the reason giants died out on Earth, because when the larger beings came here, they couldn't live here because of the gravity was killing them. their big chest and everything because just too much gravity.
Right. Yeah. That all makes sense. But how did
It
we?
all ties together, Dave.
Does how did we get from point A Mars to point B Earth? Did we have spacecraft? I guess we were a highly technological civilization on Mars, George.
Yeah, I think we were the whole idea of the Atlanteans. The mythology about the advanced civilization of the past. I think that was part of the culture that came from Mars. We hear about the Anunnaki with the Sumerians. I think they were one and the same.
Hmm. Okay.
And then when we came here, we found the Cro-Magnon. They were the primitive beings that were indigenous to this planet, and we just killed them all. The the Homo sapiens, we killed out all of the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnon because we were more advanced. That's why they have the missing link. How did these two beings survive together? I think we were from another planet. And when we came here, we just killed all the indigenous beings, which were the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnon.
And we probably brought our technology with us, right, George?
Right. And then we probably had more problems. We destroyed Mars. So, you hear about the ancient Indian mythology about the conflict with the gods and the wars. And there's evidence of nuclear explosions in India.
Mhm.
I think that's all part of the story. I don't really have all the answers, Dave, but it seems to be all connected to Mars. We came here, and we are a very warlike people. I mean, we're on the verge of World War III right now. But
No,
I
no,
don't know if we want to
man,
talk about the readers and the listeners here, but we're pretty destructive.
yeah.
It's a long family tradition.
And the extraterrestrials are waiting for us to get a higher consciousness so we can be peaceful, and then maybe they'll talk to us.
I think they stay away from us because we're uncontrollable.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with the Anunnaki. When they supposedly made man and they used the available man to do the genetics. Whatever they made was just too wild for them to control, so they got the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah, yeah, we come their enemies. Yeah, but that's that's goes back 60,000, 200,000 years.
Yeah.
How many years do you think this Mars thing goes back, George?
Well, like I said, the ruins that we're seeing now, I don't think they're that old. I think that there's a lot to this story that we don't know. I think it's more recent than people are prepared for. And just by looking at what's left up there in some of they're pristine condition, some of these things, and they can't be that old.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is just a close up of the parrot's head. You can actually see the tongue in here. Here's the jaw, the beak. There's the dart. There's the eye, back of the head. This is an American Indian Hopewell copper carving of a parrot. Looks very similar to what we're seeing on Mars. You got the wing up.
yeah,
There's the beak. It's the leg down here with the tail. This is a copper plaque.
right.
Uh, this is the gem here. This is a Yucatlan city complex in Mexico. This is one of the oldest Maya cities surviving. And do you notice what shape it's in? It's in the shape of the parrot, just like we see on Mars.
Yeah, it is.
There's the tail, there's the head, the raised wing. And so this is the city shaped like the principal bird deity, Seven McCall, or the principal bird deity here. And same thing we're seeing on Mars.
George, what do you think the symbolism means? I mean, they're copying all these symbols and the structures. What do you think that means? Is it a form of communication to other, star tracking people or whatever, George?
Well, I think it's part of their history, and that's the culture. They're always being traditional and going with their mythology, whatever the story means, and they're recording it in their architecture. The Romans, they built architecture, and at the top, at the peaks, they had little uh, vignettes of the gods communicating and doing
Right.
all kinds of things, and it's just part of our human condition that we use symbols. We have the pentagon, which is a five-sided pyramid.
Mhm.
So we still do that. In Washington, D.C., we have the Washington Monument, which is a big obelisk, a big phallus that sticks up there, showing power, which supposedly is taken from the Egyptians. But yeah, we do the same thing.
Yeah. There is a lot of symbolism in what we do in our
Right.
government, even on our money. We have.
Well, there you go. Yeah, look at Money of the World. There's all kinds of images and symbolism on there. So it's everywhere. And why wouldn't it be in the architecture? The parrot geoglyph was featured in 2011 in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. And when NASA currently they took a high resolution Mars reconnaissance orbiter picture, which was beautiful. That's the image that you just saw before. This is the high resolution image here. And we did another paper updating findings that showed it supported what we had done earlier. And that was just published in 2022. And of course, nobody pays attention to these journals. I mean, the scientific community is just oblivious to this. And we were published. These are peer-reviewed journals.
Are they told not to believe in that stuff and keep it quiet if they do? George, I don't know. NASA keeps a lot of secrets.
They do, but I think it's the time's not right. It's like Richard Hoagland said. They have to wait for the correct time to have these disclosures, and they don't think the people's ready.
Well, as we can see, yeah, you can take a look at the world and what's going on, the fighting and the, I guess the silly behavior of us humans. No, they wouldn't be ready
Right.
to, unless they.
We're not ready for the truth, Dave.
No, unless they kick our butts. They come down here to kick our butts. That might be a different thing, George.
Now, tying this whole thing together with how it's connected to the Maya, this is the Star War glyph on the left here. This means star. This is a star, and this is a war symbol. And this here glyph is 6 Earth place. The 6th Earth place is actually Mars. This is a city that they talked about in archaeology. They can't seem to find where it is. The founder of Naranjo was the Mars beast. The Dresden Codex is full of information about the Mars beast. The Maya has a whole connection with Mars through the Mars beast, which is the principal bird or principal creature that was the founder of 6th Earth place. And like the Sumerians, they numbered, going back to the Anunnaki and Zechariah Sitchin, through his studies, he found that the Sumerians or the Anunnaki numbered the planets. The planets had names, but they also had numbers. Like our planet currently is the 7th planet. Mars is the 6th planet as you're going out.
Yeah, I've never seen that sixth Earth.
Well, we're the 3rd planet, the way we look at it. 3rd rock from the sun. Mm-hmm. But the Maya and the Anunnaki or the Sumerians, they numbered the planets from the end of the solar system in towards the sun. Okay. So Venus would be the 8th planet. Earth would be the 7th planet, going backwards. And Mars would be the 6th planet, as we have here. This is 5. Whoops, I'm sorry. This is the bar is 5, and this dot means 6. So that is a reference to 6, the 6th planet, which is Mars. Are you follow me? So the Sumerians would also use star symbols when they're speaking in hieroglyphics, that if they had a 6-pointed star, that would mean a reference to Mars. If they had an 8-pointed star, that would mean they're talking about Venus. Mm-hmm. If a 7-pointed star, that would mean Earth. Okay? Right. That's just how the Maya and this, coincidentally, they both saw that number system as representing the planets.
It's the symbolism, George. What is that? It looks like a face on top of the.
Yeah, this is a little head. This means royalty. This is a royalty glyph, and this is the Earth. This is supposed to be like a bit of Earth.
Okay.
So that's why this is 6th Earth place. That's how the Maya read that, or the archaeologist. And this here, this is a star symbol, and this is a war with this is kind of like a shell. You see the shell shape? Hey, I'm not making. This is what archaeologists interpret this stuff at. I mean, now this whole conversation about the Maya Star War. I think I have it later here in the book, or This is from the Dresden Codex. This is the Mars beast. See the Mars beast? He's got his nose going back. That's the Mars beast. This is in the Dresden Codex. Also in the Madrid Codex, we have, see these Mars beasts here? Yeah. They got their nose going back. These are considered Mars beasts. They're carrying axes. If we go back to this is an axe. You see the axe symbol? Yeah. Archaeologists say this is an axe. And this is, of course, Mars. This is all war, aggression. So you have the Mars beast coming down from the sky. This is the invasion. This has all been written about in the Maya Codex. So this is basically the invasion from Mars, coming down from the Mars, the sky band.
Okay.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, they use axes instead of technological weapons, I guess.
Well, the axe is, again, the symbol. It's a symbol of war, aggression.
Okay.
It's all symbolism. They don't have them with machine guns coming down.
or plasma guns or ray guns or whatever.
Right. Here he's got a torch. That's fire. That's more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, this whole idea about the Maya Star Wars comes to me from here's Simon Martin. You discussed him in the opening.
No.
This is in his book, The Chronicles of Maya Kings and Queens. There's a whole chapter, and I would recommend all the readers or viewers out there, listeners, order this book. This will tell you all about Naranjo and the Mars connection. It's all in this book. I didn't come up with this. This is a legitimate archaeologist talking about this. Simon Martin's well respected. He's over in the Philadelphia Museum of the History Museum of Archaeology over there. So he's over there in Philadelphia, and this is where I found out about all of this, and it's mentioned in the book. I met him. I used to live in New Jersey. I'm currently living in Virginia, but back in the early 2000s, I was living in New Jersey. I used to go over to the University of Pennsylvania. That's where he works. He's at the University of Pennsylvania. And they had, every year they'd have a Maya weekend for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'd go over there. I learned how to, besides the Maya weekend, they also had courses where you could go over on a week for free. You just go over there and go into the museum and you can get into a class, learn how to read Maya hieroglyphics, learn how to write them. And I did that for years. And I finally met Simon Martin there at the university at one of the Maya weekends. Very nice guy. And that's when I found out about this whole idea about the Naranjo with the Star Wars. And I was like, oh my God, this just relates to everything I'm finding on Mars. It was pretty remarkable.
Now, getting back to the race of people that were on Mars, you're mentioning the Mayans and these other Central American races. Who do you think was the predominant race on Mars when we left from there and came here, George?
Well, I mean, that's debatable. We can, speculate. Like we have different races and things here. I'm sure on Mars there was probably different races of people. I don't know who was the prominent race, or if there was a prominent race. I have no idea. But whoever they were, they came here, and what we have here today is the results of that.
Right. Mixed culture.
But it's probably in our DNA. We may not be as in Australia, where you have no longer have a full-blooded Aborigine. We probably don't have full-blooded Martians here because of what the Anunnaki did with genetic engineering.
Yeah.
It's a mystery, but the only way we're going to find out, Dave, we got to go there.
Yeah,
and hopefully Elon Musk will get us there.
Yeah, he's going to get us to Mars. But I guess what I'm saying too is that we have visitors all the time here, and we probably had visitors all the time at Mars when a human race or whatever race was there. They had visitors from other galaxies or whatever. They come here just like they are now. We got hundreds of UFOs flying in the sky. Now, they're just getting more and more as we go.
Well, Dr. Brandenburg talks about that could have been why Mars met its demise, because possibly they became an advanced civilization. They might have sent probes out into outer space, and they invited the wrong person to come visit them, and that's what destroyed them.
Mhm.
Even Hawking's, he talks about, not doing any communications in space. Don't send any messages out because, you see what happened to the indigenous Indians of America. You get people come over here and it destroys your culture.
Yeah, well,
God knows who we're going to be talking to coming here, and we may have the same, demise happen to us that happened to Mars by having, the wrong person come visit us.
well, since I'm an experiencer, and when he said that we shouldn't be communicating with them, I sat there and I said, "Buddy, they're already here." And
Right. It's too late.
for thousands of years, they've
Right.
been on and off our planet for thousands of years, George. Uh, yeah, we're coming up on an hour and a half. Can you believe that? Wow.
It's time flies when you're having a good time.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you got something to finish up on, just
Well, I got my slide up there of the book. If the audience is interested, please look into the book. Um, you know, as an author, you don't make a lot of money. I'm not out to make a lot of money. You can't make much money on these books. I mean, if I wanted to make money, I'd do a book on cooking or sports.
yeah.
But I just want to get the information out there. So if you're interested, please look into the Great Architects of Mars. Uh, I really appreciate Dave having me on. I had a good time talking to him, and I hope everybody learned something. I did.
Yeah, I did too. I've seen a lot of things I've never seen before. But no, talking about not making money on books, I know I've got four. I'll have, the fourth one will be
I
out.
don't have to tell you, right?
You don't have to tell me, and especially these topics. If you don't have a big name, you're not
Right.
going to sell books anyway. But and I had a comment on one of my shows last week. A person said, "Well, yeah, you're just doing this for money with your books." No,
No,
I'm not making any money. I think the
no,
best pleasure I get is sharing what I know and what I've been
exactly. Yeah. I
experience.
want to get the word out.
Yeah,
Read the book,
yeah,
take it for what it is. If you think just one thing in that book is artificial, then I made my case.
yeah. It's enlightenment. You're teaching people stuff that
That's right. Yeah.
and we need to know this. There's a lot of people who have blinders on, and I wish they would take them off and listen and watch and make sense of things. It's the consciousness that people need to grow in and look at the world around them and say, is this? Let's talk about Matrix for the last question. What do you think about a Matrix, George? Are we in a Matrix?
Well, a couple years ago, there was some scientist that basically came out and proved that we're living in the matrix, but that's kind of scary.
Yeah,
But if we're living in the matrix, that just proves that we're living in a a artificial construct that a superior being made. So that may prove that there is a God if there is a matrix. I don't know.
there's a creator, there's a source, and even the ETs know about that. I've heard stories about that. But also, I really think if we are a matrix, our souls is what counts. The meat suit doesn't count.
You're right.
It's our souls that really counts. That goes to another dimension. When somebody asked me, "Is there life after death?" I said, "Yes, there is." Our souls go to another dimension, and we just keep going, and we recycle through all these different planets and all these different lives, a lot of past lives. And if you can figure that out, then that's great. But I'm glad to have everybody on board here tonight, listening to the show and watching the show. And I'm really happy to have George J. Haas on, describing Mars. I was looking forward to this topic because I want to know more about Mars. And by golly, I saw some things that I've never seen before. George, thank you so much for doing this and being on the show. And look forward to that book coming out. And if you have a website or anything, I'll put it in the narrative. And or your book. Well, this book won't be out until when? January,
It comes out in the first week of January.
week of January. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. That's when they get all.
If anybody wants to contact me, just I'm on Facebook, George Haas.
Mhm.
We have the Cydonia Institute website. You just type in the Cydonia Institute, it'll come up. I'm all over the internet. Any of this stuff you want to talk about, contact me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. And someday I'll see you on Mars.
There you go. Yeah, along with Elon Musk, he'll throw a big party, won't he? I thank you so much, George Haas, for being on the show. This is Dave Emmons with the Strange Reality Show. My headphones are slipping. It's about time, but it's so. Thank you for being here, George, and also this Mars topic is going to be continuous on. It's going to be our future. And on the strange reality here, I'm glad to bring this to you. And some of these pictures I know a lot of people haven't seen before. So right on. Thank you very much from Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality and George Haas, the guest. Thank you. Good night, everybody.